Good morning, wonderful people. Just checking that my sound is on. Good morning from a rather chilly Auckland. Look, it's 10 degrees here. All of you on the mainland are saying, what a wimp. What a wimp. No, it's actually a beautiful, well, still autumnal morning here. Not a cloud in the sky, but rather cold. But cold for an Aucklander. But morning to you all. Welcome to Solid Ground and welcome back to Solid Ground to many of you as well, where I take the next 20 or so minutes to talk around issues that have caught my eye in the cultural, the religious, the political, the ethical. In fact, we're going to have quite a bit of a chat on an ethical situation this morning, just to, warm up a Tuesday morning. But lovely to have you all along. If you're new to the show, know that this is live. And you can comment. If you are on Family First Facebook page or you're on YouTube, again, the Family First YouTube channel, your comments come direct to me here in the studio. Just like these wonderful people who are saying good morning and often letting me know where they are from. So good morning to Michael. I see we've got Lynette as well. Lovely to have you along. Jackie, always lovely to have you here in the morning. Sandra, again, good morning. We've got Darren here as well. Lovely to have you on board. And Viv there in Tairua. Lovely to have you guys all along. So as I say, if you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, on the Family First channels, and this is Lynette telling me I'm weak. It's a minus 0.9. Ooh, that is chilly. There must be a southerly coming through. That's my guess. But if you're on either of those channels, know that you can comment on everything or anything we're discussing. Of course, you can raise questions. Certain things catch my eye over the recent days, but it's what's of interest to you. If there's something that's happening, you're going, I talk about that, always happy to. And Chris is telling me it's a cracker. No, sorry. Always try to explain to people. I've got a very small screen, which I'm very happy about. But I think as I'm getting older, I'm finding it harder to read things even with my glasses on. So it's a cracker day there in lovely Napier. Chris, lovely to have you along and everyone else. Just a reminder, of course, I do Solid Ground every Tuesday and Thursday, and Bob covers the other mornings with Daybreak. And a reminder too, that on a Thursday at 5 o'clock, Bob and I come on together and do something called Political Playback. And this week there's going to be no shortage of topics, actually. No shortage of topics because amongst other things, we've got the budget on Thursday. So that's probably the big, if you will, political news alongside the suspension of Pāti Māori. In fact, I might even start there. But yeah, budget's this Thursday. That will happen at about 2 o'clock, all things being equal. It's where the government obviously sets the financial agenda for the next year. Loads of questions at the moment of exactly what is going to happen. It probably reflects partly my politics, guys, in that, I'm more to the centre right. I think we've got to be careful with our spending. The government's got to find significant savings somewhere. Last budget saw the government spend more than the previous government. In other words, this national-led coalition was spending more money and borrowing more money than the Labour Party. I had fundamental problems with Grant Robertson's spending. It got worse. And so National and the others have to turn this around. Now, I know those are political points, but it has to be turned around. But on the other side, you'll all know too, there's enormous cries for more funding. Doesn't matter if it's in health and education and transport, defence, you name it. So I think most of us who are politically interested are trying to work out exactly how is the government going to spend all the money people expect of it, while simultaneously trying to cut back on expenses. It's almost an impossibility. So look, there'll be lots of little tricks, I have no doubt. Again, I was in Parliament long enough of how you slice and dice and you present things to try and make the books look better. Nothing corrupt, I better be clear. By using tricks, it's not suggesting anything untoward. There's just ways that things are done. We're told to watch around the taxes. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. There's already some talk about how to encourage foreign investors in that. That's fine. But again, how is the government going to sort this? I just don't know. It's a real mystery. And again, we're watching most of the lead up to the budget, trying to get a bit of a hint, as you say. Huge demands for more pay. We obviously had the pay equity issue that has, in effect, saved, as they say. Well, saved is the wrong word, but the government's saying saved billions of dollars. That's in the future for the government's books. It obviously comes with a massive political cost that a lot of low-paid workers are very upset. And as I said, I think last week, this could well create a rod for the government's back. So you've got Adrian here as well. Lovely to have you along. I said we've got Simply Green. I've got Awake, Not Woke. I can't actually fully see the picture, but it actually makes me... It looks funny. Too small for me to see, but all I can see is white and a bit of colour. But good morning to Awake, Not Woke. And Simply Green, I'll actually segue off this. This is around the Privileges Committee decision to suspend Te Pāti Māori. And this could actually have a significant role to play this week. So just a couple of things. It's almost never happened that MPs are suspended for so long from Parliament. In fact, suspended at all. And if you're suspended from Parliament, that's without pay. So don't get me wrong, it'll be felt in the back pocket. But to be fair, politicians are paid relatively well, so they're not going to starve. What tends to happen when there are complaints, you remember there was Julianne Genter last year, stormed across the House and sort of shirt-fronted a government minister, nothing physical, just got into his space. There was an apology and in effect a slap on the hand. But what's happened here with Te Pāti Māori and the haka is much more significant. And to be honest with you guys, it's almost got nothing to do with the haka. So you'll read a lot of left-wing commentators in Te Pāti Māori itself and the Green Party and their acolytes, their supporters, that this is an affront to Maori culture, it's a colonialism run rampant. Nothing could be further than the truth. As I say, I was in Parliament long enough that were hakas, there were waiata, there were songs, there were all sorts of little, well, I was going to say disruptions. Most of the time those things were actually quite welcome. At the end of treaty bills, for example, when a settlement was reached, there would often be permission for a haka. So first and foremost, don't let anyone tell you that this is about trying to push back against Maori culture in the Parliament. That's just blatantly false. The problem here is twofold. One is they disrupted the vote, and I know some of you would have been listening to Straight Talk last night where Bob and I and others on the panel talk around a variety of topics, but they interrupted the vote. So had they waited almost, let's say, 30 seconds more, the vote would have finished. They still would have disrupted Parliament. There would still have been a bit of a furore because, of course, they were also very threatening. We shouldn't forget that. They went across the House right in the front of faces of, in this case, the ACT Party, pointing their fingers like guns, which in itself is one thing, but of course the Maori Party have a history of violent rhetoric and violent symbolism. And it's one of those things too that they go, well, it's just a haka. Well, I'm afraid for some people, being right in your face, being screamed at, isn't particularly endearing. And sometimes people don't know how to understand it. So, not appropriate at that time, but they disrupted the vote. And Woke Sick is saying here too, they're a separatist party. They are, which is, as others have pointed out, the irony, isn't it, that they're in Parliament, taking your taxpayer dollars, but also saying that it's illegitimate, they don't believe in it. And as I've also noted before, they make a big song and dance, literally, about the treaty, and yet don't seem to really want to show any respect to its treaty partner, as they would refer it. But as I say, they interrupted the vote, and that's the important thing, guys, because our democracy is based on voting. That's how decisions ultimately get decided, and they chose to disrupt the vote. So still would have been disruptive and problematic had they interrupted a speech, had they just yelled and screamed as they did at a different point in time, but they disrupted the vote, tried to stop the vote, to stop a decision, to stop democracy. And that's a problem in our system. And again, it shows just how disruptive they are. They are highly disruptive, and as others I can see pointing out here, separatist, nasty. They're a problem. And I know there's always going to be those in the mainstream media and those who will sympathise with them. But these are revolutionaries, they're radicals. They don't really have any solutions. It's a bit like the Green Party's budget last week. No real solutions. It's all just pie in the sky thinking. But this week is going to be quite significant. And I can see Susan's come on. Susan was on Straight Talk with me last night. The far more articulate, of those of us here. Dee Dee is saying to me, it was an act of defiance. Absolutely it was. But disrupting the vote, I just want to keep coming back to that, to people, because that's what makes this more egregious. Dee Dee's right. It was defiance. It was rebellion against the Speaker. It was disrespect to the House. And that's the second part, actually. Excuse me. The fact that they didn't turn up to the Privileges Committee, they didn't turn up in front of their peers, they didn't explain, no sense of apology. In fact, they made further mockery of Parliament, adds to that. So Dee Dee's right, it is a defiant and rebellious act. Most other MPs get a wet bus ticket or a slap across the wrist because they usually apologise. Penny Hanade did, or they very much turn up to the Privileges Committee. Again, they turn up to their peers and they talk, and even if they say they still stand by what they're doing, they show respect to the system. Te Pāti Māori have no respect for the system. They only have respect for themselves. And so it's a dangerous arrogance. And you just got to think about what this would be like. Obviously, it was another group or party of people, but it also shows you what sort of country this would be if the Maori Party were in control. It's not a utopia. It would be a brutish, thuggish society with them in charge. And arbitrary. It'd be all over the place. So dangerous. But what's going to be interesting this week, when the Privileges Committee has met, and it's made its decision, as you know, 3 weeks, it's got to be debated in Parliament. So this is not a decision that the committee makes itself, not even a decision that the Speaker makes. The Parliament has to vote to agree to the suspension or not. And I actually didn't know this until a few days ago. But every member of Parliament gets to speak for up to 10 minutes. So this is hours and hours of debate in the budget week. So I'm sorry it's taken me a few moments to get there. And Dee Dee's right. The Maori seats have to go. I'm all for that. And I don't know why we have the Maori seats at all. It's an anachronism in this country. We get a number of Maori, again, I was in the National Party, there's no secrets there, guys. We have lots of Maori MPs. We don't need Maori seats. It's an anachronism. And then Sue's asking why, if the Privileges Committee made a ruling, and that committee is represented by, why must the decision? Because it's the Parliament, the committees are only, so Sue's asking why does the whole Parliament need to discuss and vote this? Sorry, I'm actually in good health. I just seem to be coughing a bit this morning. Excuse me while I take a swig of my coffee from a certain type of mug. So Sue's asking why does the Parliament as a whole need to debate and not just take the committee's decision? Because everything that happens in Parliament is always decided by the whole Parliament. Committees are effectively subcommittees. It's small groups, like a select committee for education or health. They go away, they discuss, they decide, they give their reports back to the Parliament, and the Parliament as a whole has to decide them. It's the whole Parliament, the whole representation, not just a small side body. Otherwise, if you went slightly conspiratorial, you could see committees running amok, even if they were broadly represented. So that's why it has to come back. Everyone gets 10 minutes because suspending someone, I was going to say sacking, wouldn't that be great if I could sack them? There's a suggestion for anyone who votes for Te Pāti Māori. You've got a chance next year to sack them. So someone's asked me to put my mask on. I must say I wasn't very good at putting it on when you had to in this country. So look, long and short, this is hours and hours of debate at the time that the government's trying to move the budget. So literally this could take days, because not only can every MP speak for 10 minutes, and they won't, by the way, you can't see the governing parties doing so. But Labour, Greens, obviously Te Pāti Māori, they may well take all of their 10 minutes. They can also table amendments. They can always table amendments, and every amendment can be discussed. Every amendment has to be voted on. Every time you vote, that takes quite a while. So long and short, this could drag out, if not for days, for weeks. And this will be the final point, because I probably belabored it too much. Sorry, it's part of me is fascinated by the dynamic. This could well paralyse the government and the budget. So they'll still read the budget on Thursday, but in order to actually move a lot of the legislation that's linked to the budget, this whole process could be dragged out. So let's see what happens. If you want to jump onto stuff.co.nz, there's an advertisement for mainstream media. Lloyd Burr, and he's the one that I'm sharing, he actually does a really good summary here. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. You know, Labour will obviously want to exact a cost on the government around this to disrupt the government's work, but they won't want to be seen as completely disrupting the work of Parliament. So anyway, who's this? Jackie asking, we'll be live? Yeah, but you won't be able to go into the chamber, I believe, when this all starts on Tuesday. So today, actually, starts about 3 o'clock today. It'll be on television. You can watch the whole saga, but people won't be allowed into the gallery. I think that's the right call by the speaker. Otherwise, you're going to have more shenanigans, because, as I say, the Pāti Māori have no respect. Now, thinking of, before I transition, of respect, something that is much more respectable, just a reminder, we have the Forum on the Family coming up in August. You can now register. People are already doing so, which is exciting. I mean, it's no surprise. We literally get hundreds and hundreds of people attending. But you can jump to Forum on the Family. One of our guest speakers, you probably don't know this gentleman, but he is fantastic. And here's his short promo.
Hi, I'm Jeff Johnston with Focus on the Family in the United States. I'm looking forward to coming to New Zealand in August for the Forum on the Family.
So he's like a sister group to Family First. So Jeff will be brilliant. As you know, we have Maria Grossman, Dawn Hawkins, and many others. Obviously, the Falaus, that's going to be amazing. We are so hoping that they can actually join us in person. But if they can't join us in person, we'll be doing it live, a bit like we're doing at the moment. Now, look, a heavy bioethical issue, but I thought I'd raise this because it's the media playing mischief again. So this is in the United States. It's in Georgia. A woman is brain dead, which of course is sad, and pregnant. And most of the headlines are yelling and screaming, in effect, in support of abortion. They are so desperate to allow the aborting, the killing of children, that they will misrepresent the ethical situation to push things ahead. But I thought I'd just touch on this because a lot of times, and bioethics is one of my academic interests. I studied bioethics when I was at university many years ago. I think it's important for us to understand, because often the pro-death advocates will present things in such a way that it looks compelling and emotional. We go, oh gosh, well, of course in this situation an abortion would be the right thing to do. In this case, it's a complete misunderstanding of the situation, and there's actually a relatively simple ethical pathway through. Now, not simple if you're the family involved, it's exceptionally difficult. But why I'm raising this, and I'll quickly explain the why I'm raising this, is just basically don't believe a lot of the headlines and the shrill cries from mainstream media. As I said just a few moments ago, they are desperate to try and justify abortions, trying to mock the current laws that they have in some states, to try and say, see, it's all broken, it's not working. In this case, because a brain-dead woman, she's been kept alive and they should just abort the baby. None of that, by the way, makes any sense. So first and foremost, it's obviously tragic that here is a mum who's pregnant. Now, it's up to the family what does and doesn't happen. That's the first thing. You know, if the family wants the mother to remain on life support and to birth the baby, that's quite ethically possible. As to turn the ventilator, to turn the machines off, which means that the mother will die, and sadly too, the child. Now, obviously no one wants that, but ethically it's quite permissible, which is what the media misses out, because to me, I'm still confused why one would have to do an abortion. As I say, the ethical way through, if that was the family's decision, if there was no hope for the mum, then turning off the machine, and yes, the baby too would pass away. This is assuming one can't deliver the baby early, because that's the other thing, isn't it? Why kill the baby when you could birth it and see if it could have life? But ethically speaking, it's what they call the principle of double effect. If you've never come across this, the principle of double effect basically says if you're doing a good action for a good or the right reason, then even if some bad or evil consequences happen, then that's acceptable. Doing a bad action for a bad reason, even to bring around a good result, is wrong. So again, that's the principle of double effect. We understand at times that our actions can have consequences, and sometimes consequences are not good. But to use it as an example, so this woman is brain dead. To be on a ventilator, to be kept alive by machines is an amazing technology, but it's quite permissible to turn it off. It's what, again, is bioethicists or ethicists would refer to as extraordinary means. It's quite extraordinary intervention to hold her alive at the moment. So all things being equal, to turn that machine off is completely permissible, it's completely ethical. In many ways, it could be quite understandable. So that's not a bad action. Turning that machine off is a good action, or it can be construed as good, and the intention is good. If she's brain dead and there's no chance of coming back, then holding her there forever, in a way, is not particularly good. In other words, turning the machine off also has the right intention, and of course, sadly, the consequence will be that the baby dies. That is tragic, that's exceptionally sad, but that's not the intention. It's not the intention of the actions of turning off the ventilator. It's not the intention of letting the mother slip away. It's just unfortunate that there's a negative outcome. So again, that's the principle of double effect. The flip side, of course, is these people desperate to kill the baby for reasons I can't comprehend. That's a bad action, bad intention, and bad outcomes. There's no good in it anywhere. So Simply Green too is saying that they'd have to check that she was pro-life, the mother. Quite possible. And again, that's where the family's decision making would come in. If she was strongly pro-life, it's quite possible the family says, hey, look, we feel that she just needs to stay on the machines until the baby's born. We don't know those details, but I'm just struck, as I say, one is just to understand the ethics involved. Doing a good action for a good reason, even though it brings about a negative outcome, is morally permissible. And so just be aware of that, because, as I say, the pro-death culture are always trying to push an agenda, which is this case here, which is a tough case in Georgia. And, oh, hey, look, it's the terrible abortion laws which are causing all this trouble. It's not. There's actually, and to be fair, in the articles buried near the bottom, they do have some ethicists who are saying, no, it's perfectly permissible to turn the machines off. Trinity notes, the headlines make it seem that the woman's been kept alive against the wishes. It would be hard to see what the problem here is. I mean, it's tragic, as Trinity's pointed out. If the family wants to let her go, it's quite ethically permissible to do so. That's really the long and short of it. Again, sad as the situation is, to let her go or not. They can really, the family could make a decision, knowing or assuming what this mother would. And again, it's just exceptionally sad. But I just want to reiterate these headlines, the way that it's been reported is really an attempt to continue to further the abortion notion. And again, I'm not sure, well, I don't even have to be not sure, there's nothing that an abortion's going to do to help save the mother. All it's going to do is kill the baby. So it's just nutty stuff. Hey, something more positive, and then I will wrap up for today. It's a free speech thing. I think it's ridiculous at one level that New Zealand needs to pass freedom of speech legislation into our universities, but they've become so corrupted, so beholden to their progressive ideologies that, as you know, you can barely talk about any other issues now. If you've got a Christian viewpoint, if you have a viewpoint on the treaty, as some have been putting forward, on gender-critical issues, it's almost impossible at our universities. So it's really positive. It's really positive that this bill is going through Parliament. It's going to assert academic freedom and freedom of speech. Now, the woke academics, of course, are screaming, oh, it's an infringement on our rights that you're doing this. It's actually they who are infringing on society's rights. and therefore legislation is required to protect society from these rogue but troublesome academics who dominate their universities, often with false thinking and thinking that does not allow critique. They make so much, don't they, these academics, of being the critic conscience of society, but no one's allowed to actually discuss or debate with them. So anyway, I just thought that was a positive thing. This is going through Parliament. Long and short says that if people are being restricted, if universities are not allowing a breadth of discussion, funding and so forth can be cut. So I think that's really, really positive, to be honest. In line with some of this stuff, Bob continues to write his Mick blogs. This is his latest one. Will actually come probably on Thursday. I might talk about the terrible reports that are coming out in New Zealand around our child suicide and abuse statistics, and give you some thoughts around why that's. I'm sure you've all got your thoughts as well, but Bob is still busy writing away. Wokesick has said, and I'll see if I can put this up while I'm doing all these things at once, badly. The university data, you can see, it's funny, when the Greens talk about imported culture wars, they don't seem to realise that, most of our universities are captured by overseas narratives and trends. But as I say, Bob's still writing. I haven't written my one, Substack, I haven't written my new one this week, but I'm still pushing the pronoun class. If you don't know what I'm referring to, because it's a new term that I've made up, jump on to substack.com and look up my name, or look up On Point, and you can read all about it. Obviously, I still do my shows on RCR. I sit down with my mate Bruce. He's my American correspondent. We talk about what's happening in America at the moment from his perspective, because we often get it all filtered here, which is, well, good. And also I continue, I've done another interview recently with Rodney Hyde around my trip to Israel, where again I just talk about my impressions around what is happening there. So guys, that's it for this week. Well, not this week, this Tuesday. God, I'm getting ahead of myself. As I say, we have these shows every morning. Bob will be on tomorrow. I am back on Thursday on Budget Day. And we also have political playback at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on the Thursday, where obviously there'll be a lot to discuss there. I have a young one to get to school. So guys, enjoy this gorgeous day, if it is as beautiful where you are as where I am. Certainly, hopefully, Lynette, down there in the south, where it was almost -1 degree. I hope it gets a little bit warmer. But guys, wonderful to have you all here. Bless your day. Bless everything. Bless everything. Why not? He gets all theological at the end of the show. Love you to join you guys. Catch you later.